Hello, welcome to my session. My name is Matthew Christine. I am a science teacher here at Tuslaw High School. I'm also the assistant technology director. My email is at the bottom of this screen, which I made a Google slide for you. And if you have any questions over anything or just need some assistance or just want to give me some input or you just need some extra pointers from me, it's stuff that you liked about it and things that you want to improve, don't hesitate to email me anytime, even over the summer. I will get back to you as quickly as I can. All right, but this session is called Interactive Lessons, and it's a couple things that I have applied into my classroom a little bit more, and is mainly going to focus on PearDeck and Desmos. So that is what this is about, how to incorporate two activities into your slides presentation or make your notes a little bit more interactive, so you can get some formative assessments from your students that you can gather how well the information is getting across, but also better ways to get these students to make connections. So I've been to many sessions before that are over technology. I've been to a couple PearDeck sessions now. I've been to a couple Desmos sessions. And so what I try to do is I take apart what I felt was important as a teacher and what could be actively used in the classroom. And I'm a science teacher, so it's mostly stuff that I felt was important for science. And I also teach high school, so I kept thinking in the high school mind, what's important. So that is what I tried to do. I tried to take apart what was very important for me as a teacher that I can actively use in class and try to put this into my presentation. So hopefully I'm not putting a lot of stuff that's going to make you bored with it, but again, I got to at least cover a couple key contents. So what I chose to do is I chose to make this on a Google Slides. I'm not going to put it into presentation mode because what I would rather do is show you how PearDeck can be actively used by going into my menu bar at the top. So again, my contact information is right here. I will share this Google Slides with everybody at the end. I'll put the link for it that you can go to. You can even watch it as you're going through this video if you want, but I'm just going to slide through a couple things with it. All right, so here is my first slide. As I always like to do in any type of class, I always like to start off with jokes. And so, yes, I love dad jokes. And so I just start off with a little bit of technology here for you, and you could read through here. So while we're closed, the most pioneering piece of technology of our time. They were the first to go online. And add a little bit extra joke there for you. So if you like that, I always like to do that just to get people interested in the class just a little bit more. Students seem to love it. I'm always surprised at that, but that is really where we are. So let me go to my next slide here just so you can see it. And I'm putting this up here because I know, being in school from the 90s and very early 2000s, that even in college, I had a lot of classes that looked like this. And so I want you just to think right now, as you were as a student, or if you were a student right now, how was this kind of lesson effective for you, but also how was it ineffective? Because I still sometimes even use my overhead projector, but I just want you to think right now, what images or words come to mind right now as you see this? So if you walked into class, what would you think about? And I'll tell you what I thought of really is I had a couple of professors in college that would come into the class. They had their transparencies they've been using for a very long time, and they made them who never knows how many years ago, and they would just have it in a special manila folder. They pop it up and they would throw those slides on there. They would write on them with their markers, which would make it, those were usually the better teachers, I felt, and they would be more engaged with it as well, and I'd follow along with notes. I never minded it so much, but after time goes by, it became a little dry to see this, and it wasn't as engaging. And especially for me, it was hard to get student input throughout these notes, and that was just a thing at the time. And so I feel like, to me, the overhead transparency is going away. And the problem with the overhead transparency is once you make it, you can't change it. And that's what's awesome about slides, presentations, PowerPoints, and so on, is that you can actively change it throughout a lesson. You can change it for the next lesson if you felt there was something that was wrong. If you felt there was something you need to improve for next year, you can immediately change it and get it ready for next year as well. And that's what's great about the technology right now, is that we can make instant changes to make it more applicable to what we want to be taught. You can individualize it for certain classes, and they're pretty easy to change. So what this whole activity is about is this slide right now. Okay, so I'll have you read over it. I always told you don't want to read through everything on your slides presentation, but here it is. So the main goals, as you can see right now, is we're going to be looking at two interactive pieces of technology, one called PearDeck and one called Desmos. I would like by the end of this session for you to start developing two interactive presentations, one in PearDeck, one in Desmos. And then I will show you some of the results from my classes in PearDeck and Desmos, and you can see differences between what you get from each one. And then finally, you'll see the formative results and how you think that you would interpret those for the next. So I'll just take it from some of my classes. Okay, so what you're going to need for this, you will definitely need a computer with internet access. Okay, you'll need a class set of computers for the day that it's in use, and that's important. So if you're planning on using this, you could use it where you're teaching remotely, but to me, the best input that you can get for it is to have a class set of computers for the day in use. Okay, if you prefer not to, you can probably assign this as a homework assignment for them to do, to go through your notes, but I find it as beneficial to be in person so you can answer direct questions. For PearDeck, you will definitely need a Google account, but even in Desmos, Google accounts will work with it. But both are suited for the Google Suite, and they are suited for Google Classroom. They're both integrated into both. So for both pieces of technology, I would say Google Classroom is the best for it. If you use something else, PearDeck does work with a couple other ways, but I do know that Google Classroom has worked very well for me. So I'm going to talk from that perspective. Okay, so right now I'm going to talk about PearDeck, and that's what we're going to go to. All right, so there is a paid version of this, and that's what I want to make clear to you. There is a paid version that you or your school can purchase. Okay, that is just up to you to feel how much you like it and how much you want to add to it, but I have always used the free version, and the free version has been good enough for me. Okay, if there are some extras that you can add to it, they definitely make the premium version worthwhile. But again, for me, I'm not trying to use this every single day in my classroom. I'm trying to use it every so often so it doesn't become dry. Right, so I'm going to be using the PearDeck here. It works very well with slides, and that is what we're going to be doing. So what I'd like you to do at this time is you are going to make a new Google Slides with your Google account. So what I put down in, one thing I learned at one of my sessions I've gone to is, you probably already know this, but I didn't know this a couple years ago, so I thought it was neat, is that if I type in slides.new, it gets me a new slides presentation on Google automatically when I do it every time. And I can do that with documents, so I can do docs.new, and it'll give me a brand new blank document and so on. Same thing for sheets. It'll do everything perfectly for me. So I just knew by adding .new, you got to a new blank assignment. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to create a Google Slide presentation. So once you're there, we'll talk about the next step. Okay, this is how you're going to be able to get the Google Slides add-on for PearDeck. So up in your menu bar, but you got to make sure your menu bar is there, you are going to see the term add-ons. If you click on add-ons, okay, if you click on add-ons here, you're going to get all the add-ons that I have right now. So if you see, these are all the add-ons that I have used and downloaded over time, but for now, you're going to have to click on Get Add-ons. Once you click in Get Add-ons, it'll pop up to a new search bar here. And what you need to type in when you get to this part is you're going to type in the spot is PearDeck. And as you can see, I'm going to type in PearDeck just so you can see it. It already says that I have installed, but that is what you need to do. So you need to install PearDeck into one of your add-ons. Once you have that, we are going to create our Google Slides, and I will show you a couple of different activities that I did as well. Okay, so what I'm going to do now from this, after you've gotten this all taken care of, okay, is you're going to create a activity. I like to do this for my notes, so I just take it for if I'm having a presentation on nuclear decay or on the atomic structure, and we're talking about isotopes. I will make a lesson just for one of those. I take my notes that I've done from previous years, I incorporate it into a new Google Slides presentation. But while I'm making the Google Slides presentation, what's nice about this is you can add questions to the slide and your students will answer the questions directly in front of you right on the slide, so you will be able to see, is the information making connections? And that is what I'm going to show right now, is how to add these interactive questions throughout the lesson to determine the level of mastery. Okay, so what I've already done is I've added to this presentation that I'm doing right now. What I'd like you to do is just watch how I'm going to do it how I'm going to add questions to it in the future. So this is a slide I already made. You can't answer it right now because I'm in Google Slides mode, and I'll talk about it here. So what you have to do is, if you're asking a question, you have to type in the actual question on the Google slide. PearDeck doesn't let you put a question into their resource. It is incorporated from the slide. So this is my first question I asked. So when I gave a professional development meeting one other time, I put this down. This is just a general question you can always ask. You can get a lot of different answers for it. Okay, but what is your feeling toward the economy at the moment, and why do you feel so? So I put that question on there, and as you can see, I have this little pair at the bottom. This tells students that when they are on this, there will actually be a question. I'll show you how that looks in a little bit. But right now, what I'm going to do is, how did I add this section here to see an open response, is I went back to my add-ons, and I go to where it says PearDeck for Google Slides add-on. I'm going to open that up, and off to the right, it's going to open up my PearDeck browser. So as you can see right now, they give you all these different things you can do, where you can add audio to the slide if you want to, for the student to be able to hear, okay? Different things that you can play with. I'd rather let you play with these eventually. I'm just showing you how to make it work. So right now what I did is, on this specific slide, is I added a text question to it. So what I did is, I have these 4 options. I can add an open text response. I can add a multiple choice. I can add a number question where they type in a number, or you can just give them a website. Okay, I've very much benefited from these 3. I haven't really used the website too much because I can put the website link directly on this anyway. Okay, but there's also 2 that you would have to have the paid version for if you wanted to make your own questions about them. That is the drawing and a draggable. I will show you how those work here in a little bit too. Okay, because they do have some free drawing questions and draggables that they already provided to you, but that's only because they are just template questions. Okay, so right now, again, I'll go back to my question here, and this is the question I have. And if I typed in this and I clicked on text, it'll type in right now, adding interactive question. Since I already have it already added, it's probably just going to say it's the same thing, but it added it to it. So when students are going to be viewing my presentation, there will be a box for them to answer on. What it will do is, it will take my presentation slide that they're seeing, it'll bump it over to the left, and on the right-hand side or left-hand side will be an open box for them to type their answer in. And that's what they're going to do. So they'll type their answer into that box here for that question. Okay, pretty standard, but again, you have to put in your own text box. Okay, you have to put in your own text box on the Google slide itself. So as you notice, when I hit this, I put in text, all it did was basically say, this is now an interactive slide. Okay, so that's what happened, but you have to put the question on your own onto it and add whatever else you want to it. Okay, next question, I'm showing a multiple choice option for you. Okay, so I'm going to show the multiple choice option, and what I did is I put this down. If you were to attend a wedding and these were your 4 options for a meal, which choice would you prefer? Now, I put the question on here, as you can see. So I put the question again, added my little emoji character with it, and then I'm going to click on multiple choice. Now, with this, as you can see, what popped up was, I put in my 4 choices. I can add more choices if I want to. Okay, I can update the slide, but I just put down the 4 classic options that you get at a wedding that I went to recently. So I put down these items, and you say update slide, and now this is going to be an interactive slide with a multiple choice. So when they get to the slide, it'll pop up as a multiple choice question. Okay, now for this one, I put in a number response, and again, they're going to enter in a number. So it just means they're going to put a number in. What you'll get as your answers, you'll see on your end as the teacher, is you'll see the different numbers that you're going to get from your multiple attendees. So I did this question here. Again, I clicked on number. It's making this slide interactive. So what it's doing is it's entering the program and say students are supposed to put a number into this spot. Okay. I'm not going to show you a website because to me, you can insert links on your Google Slides anyway. That will work. So I'm not going to show you the website one. If you want to play with that one, go ahead. Right now, what I'm going to do is show the drawing. So this is a question that I was able to make when I had the paid version. When you start, you get like you get so many days free. It could be 30 days free, it could be 60 days free, it could be 90. It all depends on what it is. So if you want to start this for the first time, make sure you try to find the 90-day free that you'll get, so you get the premium and see if it's worth it. But I would wait until, my opinion is wait till August to start it. So that way you get free month, you get August, September, and October to be your free month. So you get to use it during your teaching days. Okay. Or if you're going to make a bunch of these over the summer, make them over the summer, and then you will have those questions saved and you won't have to pay for them. So just as long as you know, when you got 90 days, you got to use those 90 days. Otherwise, after the 90th day, you lost your free account. Okay. Now, what I put down here again is I put the question right now. So I put my periodic table on here, and I put down the question right now. It's a task, not a question mark. So I'll put task and say, your job is to circle the noble gas group. I know where the noble gas group is, but let's say I want to do this as an informal question just to see prior knowledge right now. They put this as the first slide on. I want to see where they are with it. So I clicked on draw. It's going to ask me, do you want to make this a drawing question? And it will. So when they get this question, they will have the ability to choose a color and circle the correct group that they want. And again, if I have students all over the place, it tells me I really need to focus on, first off, what is a group and what are the noble gases? So they would have to understand that. And then the last premium question that you can choose, and this, again, these are two premium features that you can use, the draw and the draggable, so you have to pay for it, are these two right now. This is going to be the draggable. So what I did is I just put a map that they already had preloaded on, and I asked them to locate these spots. So what I would ask them to do, and I probably need to make this a better question, and that is drag the colored marker to the correct location. So I put that on here. So locate, and I'll put that down as locate, drag the colored marker to the correct location. So what they would get when they get this question is they would know, okay, I got to take this flag and put it in Australia. I got to take this little blip and put it at Africa. And that's it. So I could see, are we all in the same general spot? And if I see, when I get the student's response, I'll see all these flags everywhere. And so hopefully for Australia, I'll see a lot of red flags sitting over here and not here. Okay. The one that I'm going to see is off will probably be Easter Island, where a lot of people don't know where Easter Island is. But I try to throw one question on there every time to make it kind of confusing. All right. So those are the questions that you can use. And again, I want you to play with it when you make it. I'm going to show you my actual results here in a minute, just so you can see how it is. All right. I'll show you some of the results I got from students. Okay. But that is PearDeck. That's it. So it's taking your Google Slides presentation where you can do whatever you want as long as you know how to make a Google slide, and you can make each one interactive. All right. What I'm going to put right now is how to present them. So when you do this, you already have this set up. You've already made this activity, and you've clicked on the PearDeck, and that's what we have set up right now. So I need to make sure over here, I have to be able to click Start Lesson. So I'm going to change this where it says, go to Add-ons, click PearDeck, and click on Start Lesson. So what's going to happen now is I'm going to click on Start Lesson. I'm going to show you how it looks. So once I have this, you have two activities, student paced, instructor paced. It even tells you how it's going to be. Student paced means the students get to go at their own time pace. They get to sit there, they go through it, and they take notes. So what I've done with these activities is I've printed out an actual note paper for them to copy down the notes on their own. So they could go at their own pace without me having to explain everything directly to them. When we were on remote learning last year, I did do this a couple of times, and it worked pretty well, where they got to go at their own time, and so I didn't have to go too fast, and that's it. Maybe you found that as a good way for some students that want to move faster, some that need to take more time. That's up to them. But what I found too, this is what I tend to use more, and that is the instructor-based activity. So I'm going to click on instructor-based activity and show you what happens. This is now where the teacher gets to be in charge of it. So what will happen is they're going to come up with a code. And the students, when they get to class, they are going to click on joinpd.com. So you put this on the screen when they walk in. So they come to the class, they click on joinpd.com. So once they click on it, they are going to type in this code. And students always like this when they get to these weird words that they come up with. Once they get there, they're set. What's nice about this too, I can invite a class, so I can put this on Google Classroom. So when they come into the class, they can click on the link right away, or just tell them to come into the room, click on it this way. That way I can make one for individual classes too. Okay, you also get a student link, which if you need to share the link, which is really the same thing as inviting class, but it's up to you. And then you also have the option for dashboard. Okay, now dashboard is a paid item. I haven't found a real necessary need for a dashboard, but I'll talk to you about that in a minute. Okay, so that's what you do. You put this on your projector, students come in, log on the computer, ready for class to get started. Give them a note paper to have so they can take the notes or whatever you want them to do, and that's where it's going to be. Okay, I'm going to X out of this, so I'll just show you how it looks. So this is what it will be. The code will always be in the upper right-hand corner when you set it up, and I put this on my computer screen or on my TV screen when I'm presenting. So as you can see right now, they are putting up here for you to see again. Now, I am in control of where they go. They don't move to the next slide until I move to the next slide. They can go back to previous slides, but they can't go forward. And that's what's nice about it, is that you can't have students jumping ahead. They can't do questions without them seeing it, and that'll be it. So again, it's all nice in how they actually can see the differences in responses here. Okay, so I can make it full screen, but what I highly recommend is when you do this, go to your three ellipses in the bottom right-hand corner and give it a name. So I say, okay, third period, integrated science, and that'll be it. So you click on a couple things just to give it an actual name, and that'll be it. You can also turn on the student pace. So let's say you didn't get through everything that you wanted to and you want your students to finish it on your own, you turn on student pace. Or you've done what you've needed to explain and the students can do the rest, you turn on student pace. Then you hit end session if you're done. Okay, so let's just call this, I'm going to call it test run. Okay, I'll put me. Okay, so now let's say I wanted to go to my next slide. There it is. So I already put my questions on there. This is what they see. But as you can see right now too, it basically gives them a PDF of every page, which means it's a frozen piece of your slides. So if you spend a lot of times on animations on your Google Slides, it's not going to work here. So if you spend a lot of time on Google Slides with animating, it's not going to show up. It just shows the final screen. So that's a plus and a negative for it, okay? But that's what you're going to see. All right, so let's just show this is what we'd see. There's their open-ended response. Now, as the teacher, I can actually show the responses to them afterwards. So what I recommend, you tell them they have 10 seconds to answer, okay, this question, or 30 seconds to answer this question. Okay, then I'm going to lock the screen. If I lock the screen, students aren't able to type in anything else. They're frozen on the screen and they could see it. Why do I think that's important? Because once I start showing responses, kids are going to notice that they got the question wrong and they're going to want to switch. Now, with PearDeck, they aren't, with the free version, the students' names are not listed with who answered what. That's good and bad sometimes, because now you don't know, well, was that kid participating? I had 18 kids in this class today and only 15 answer. Who were the 3 that didn't answer? Well, you got to be able to know that. So what I recommend teachers to do is when they answer in questions, you have them type in after their answer's over their first name or their initials, so you know who answered the questions. It's not perfect, but I take this as more of an importance for formative assessment than it is for actual taking an actual grade. Okay, so now if I wanted to see responses, what I do is I click on show responses and it shows responses are locked, so students wouldn't see it. But on this page, I would see kids typing in. So this is great for getting a quick input of student, where are they with it? How do they feel? So maybe even you want to ask a question at the end, like, how are you feeling about this activity? And they can just type in a simple answer. And again, you could be able to find out who typed in what eventually with just by typing in that way. And so the main negative of it is you don't know who typed in what. You're going to ask them to put in their initials with it in the end. And that's what I asked them to do. So when you're done with it and you're ready to move on to the next slide, you hit show responses. You can lock screens. So again, you see all of these. So you can keep seeing here. Now here's my multiple choice. Okay, waiting for responses. So I haven't gotten any responses yet. I'll show you a couple of those later. Okay, but again, I would lock screens. And I'll show you a couple more and move on. But what I also find is, let's say I'm on a slide and I'm struggling trying to figure out where they are. And I felt like, you know what, this is a good time to ask an extra question to them that I didn't put down. Let's say you want to ask a new math question to them or a new problem. You can actually go into it and actually set a new prompt. So they give you some templates of what you can choose, like during class. So show me how you're feeling, how comfortable you are with it. They even give you some extra options for it as well if you want to draw a picture. So these are the free ones. You can just put in a response. This is what I tend to use most of the time. Just please write a response on A, B, C, D. You write it on the board and you get their quick answer from it. So you just quickly say that so I can get an actual answer. Because I know I've done that many times where I'm sitting there, all right, let's make my own new question. I come up with new numbers, I plug them in, what can you do? So what's nice is that you get this opportunity, so you write in and say, okay, I want everybody to give me your thoughts on this right now. And then they would write in the response. It automatically adds a new slide to it that is now interactive as well. So it's nice. So as you can see, there's my interactive slide. Okay, and that's it. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna hit end. I've already named it. Then I'm gonna hit exit. All right, so what I'm gonna show now is I'm at PearDeck.com. When I went to PearDeck.com, I'm going to show you how I can actually look back at my previous sessions. So what I have is I have some of my old sessions here. Okay, so like I have a class from Physical Science Period 2, Ionic Bond, Mechanism, Introduction, so I can see where they are. I can go back and I can look through a couple of these lessons. Actually, I'm going to go to my archived, because you can archive these for later, and you can see it here. So I'm going to go to my professional development that I did a while ago. I archived it, so nobody's going to see it. But I can go back and see what were previous answers early in the year. All right, so I reopened it. I'm going to X out of it so people can't see it. But here are just some of the responses that I received. I didn't get to the drawing, but here's what I'll have. There's my drawings when I did get to the drawing. So you can see I had people draw. Some people did know where my noble gas group was, and these are just some of the responses that you can see. Okay, and again, there's my map question. I click on show responses. Here's where it showed. So it's nice. I could see quickly, okay, where we have an issue, where are we not. So it seemed like we did a pretty good job of knowing our main areas except for Easter Island. So it could show us all of those. Okay, then I can get an idea of how people liked it. So I added one question at the end. How do you like PearDeck? Do you like it a lot? There are my responses. So I could see all these different things, and it was really nice to get the input from my students. So again, I'm looking at it right now, how many people are giving it. When you do a number question, it gives you a number line answer. And basically it just gives you a red dot where students thought the answer was. So again, one more time, show responses. Here was an open-ended question. Let me put it over here. If you want to see an open-ended question, there are these ideas. So you see it. But again, you're noticing you're not getting anybody's name. So it's nice, okay, for it. It's nice in the end that you have answers, but you don't see who answered what. So as long as students give you true input, which for the most part, when I've done this, I have gotten really good input, I felt I've gotten what I've needed from it. But it's up to you to say what you like. But again, this was all back in my PearDeck from my school session, and that's what you can look at for yourself. All right, so that's going to be it for PearDeck. I'm going to throw a couple extra items on here from PearDeck just so you can see it, and then we'll discuss PearDeck a little bit more. But that is really just showing you how do you present. Okay, I can lock screens. I already talked about this. I talked about new prompts, so I don't need to keep explaining it. I'll just let you have this just so you can see it. All right, quickly, here are my final thoughts. I put it down here. You can read this on your own time. I'm not going to read everything on it. I'll share that document with you, but it's really just what I thought. What do I like? I like the free version. Just realize that you're not going to have every aspect that you might want. You're not going to get the students' names. You're not going to get the draggable questions where you get to actually make your own draggable questions or drawing questions. Okay? But I did put down a couple extra items here just so you can see it, what you can do. I felt the free version is perfectly fine. I also mentioned here about the animations, that if you have animations in Google Slides, they will not work. And as I've said, they integrate with your Google Slides. So if you've already made Google Slides, you can use old Google Slides that you've used and simply throw PearDeck into it. A great way of making your notes more interactive so you see where your kids are. Okay, so again, I added this as a PearDeck question. Okay, I put this as a PearDeck question for you. And again, what I would have done is you have a click and drag. I put one red dot, and the students' jobs were to drag it where they like it at. And that would have been a PearDeck question. All right, so now what I'm going to go into is my next one. So I spent a lot of time on PearDeck. I'm now moving on into Desmos. Okay, Desmos is another interactive activity, except it does take more time to develop. It takes more time to develop because it doesn't use a nice program like Google Slides. I personally like Desmos a little bit better because I can make a little bit more active questions with them. But as I said, the negative of it is that it takes more time. So I would recommend, you're not going to use a lot of Desmos activities throughout the year, but you're going to make them on your own and maybe a few times a year, a few times in 9 weeks, whatever you like it for. But what I love about Desmos is the questions are more engaging. And also, I think their dashboard is 100 times better, and you get to see the students' answers. You can see where they are. So for teaching remotely, I like this one a lot because I could see where the students were, how are they looking at the end, and how do they answer the questions as well. So if I had them online at 9 a.m., I could see who's going through what slides at certain times and how are they answering the questions as well. So I'll look at it again. But what's great about it is it's totally free. It just takes more time to develop. So I'll put down a couple things here. All right, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to go to teacher.desmos.com. You're then going to have to create your free teacher account. So I'll show you what it looks like on here, but here is Desmos. Up in the upper, they will immediately type in, say, create a teacher account. So let me log out of my account right now just so you can see it. So when I get to teacher.desmos.com, here's what you're going to click on. Create your free teacher account or create an account. It works with Google Classroom, so I would connect with Google. So when I type in, I'm going to sign with Google. I'm going to make sure I put it in with my account here. And that's what you have. So connect with my account. There's what it looks like. So everything is set up for you. This is mainly a math website. So if you're a math teacher, this is an awesome program because there's a lot of built-in programs that you can use and they are engaging mathematically, because Desmos is originally a calculator for you to use. Okay, it's originally a calculator. That's an online calculator that some state tests like to use, and that's all it's going to be. All right, let me just get back to this though. All right, so you're going to create your account. We're going to make our first activity. I will show you a couple activities here in a minute. But once you're on the home page, you're going to go to the left-hand side, click on Custom, and click on. Then you're going to go to the upper right-hand corner and click on New Activity. I choose Private because I don't want anybody to see it yet. So I'll show how this is done. You're going to click on Custom on the left-hand side, and in the upper right, you're going to click on New Activity. When I click on New Activity, I'm going to call this just Test Run May. Now I'm going to make it private for now. I don't want anybody else to see it except for me. create new activity. Here it is. Okay. Here are the questions that you can do. All right. Now they've gotten a lot better with this over time, but I'll explain everything it means over here. It just takes time to make. But I felt when I made these, I've gotten really good student results. And that's why I think over the summer, it's important to make a few of these and take your time with it. All right. But what I'm going to show right now, too, is I'm going to show you one of my accounts. And what I'd like you to do is I'm going to send you the link for an activity I already made for professional development. And I've updated it to make it more, I've updated it, make it more for this specific presentation, so you'll see it as well. So I'm going to show you how I got to it. I have a bunch of activities I've already saved for different class styles, so teachers came to me and asked, I'll go for it. But I'm going to click on science, okay? And as you can see, I made a couple ones for ionic binary compounds. I've taken one from another teacher, as long as I can say I attribute it to her, and I made one for covalent bonds. So you see, I made two over chemistry for this specific one, okay? But I'll show you the one that I made for a professional development. So I teach at Tuslaw, so I made this as a Tuslaw teacher presentation. I'm going to update this more, but here is the activity. And what I'm going to do is I will activate this for the class once June starts, and I will let you go through and see these questions. But right now, I'm going to show you quickly how this looks. So I made these assignments look like this, and as you can see, I'm just going through each question, showing you how they look on my end. This is called a draggable question, where you're going to drag them and group them based off of their different styles. So in this particular question, I asked students to look at the cereal and see if they knew what type of cereal it was. And so I put the name of it, and I let them try to figure out. Maybe they knew just based off the shape what cereal it was, and I made this a tough question. But it's a draggable, and I'll explain that later. This is also an ordered list, which I really like. I think this is important for a lot of classes. You could put this as a timeline, but you could say, okay, which one has the most calories of these sandwiches compared to the others? Which one has the least amount of calories? So you click and drag based off of that. Okay, this is just like an opinion question, so I made a question from this to get where they were. This is another drawing question, which I think it's a little bit better, where you have to get the map and you draw it in. You say, okay, where do you see Mississippi River going to be? I chose different colors for them to look at it. It's the same idea. And a little math fun called a marble slide, and then you can add your quick tutorial at the end. So you can see, I'd like you to complete this just so you see it first. So I'd actually recommend that you go through this first before you do the Desmos and see how it's done and see what kind of questions you like. So as you can see, I added open-ended response, but then I even added a multiple choice question as well. So they have every type of question that you want. They're just good questions for you to see. Okay, so this is where it is. So let me talk about the activity. So what I have is, first thing you should always do is give it a title. Okay, give your slide a title. May test. So you give it a title, and then you add what you want. Text input is basically a question. So this is where they're going to answer the question. So this is where the answer will be. This is going to be an unlabeled text input. It doesn't really mean anything. Students will be able to see the responses if you let them see it. So if you want them to see each other's answers on the computer screen, you can, or you can turn it off. Okay, but where I would type the question is in this part right now. So if I wanted to type a question in, I put it at the top. Okay, and that's where you're going to get into. So you have to, again, put a question over here. Where's the answer going to be? So again, it's more important to play with the content again, but the note box is where you would type in your notes, and then at the very end, you would type in your question. So if I would just say this, ionic compounds contain a metal to a non-metal. And I would type in the compound NaCl, which element is the metal and which is the non-metal. So from that, I would add more notes that obviously I would see how many kids are understanding that, and I would see where their answer is going to be. And that's how it's done. So notice I get the slide up here, popped in perfectly. I try to put my first slide as my goal, but that's it. Okay. The next one I would try to say is that's your text input. You have math functions as well. But again, you always want to put a note into the spot provided. You always want to put a note. Maybe you want to put media into it. Media means a picture. So to me, this is important for you to develop as well, where I could put media in. So if you wanted to take like state test questions and you want to insert one here where you were allowed to screenshot a state test question, put it there, you could put the answer off to the side. It's up to you. I felt this was where Google Slides was a lot better because this is where I can actually look up images for them to have. You can't look up images. You're going to have to screenshot images and appropriately cite them as well, so you make sure that you're telling where you got it from. So you'd have to do a lot of screenshotting, and when I did that, I made a separate folder after I screenshotted to put the images here. So as you can see, I'm going to click on choose a file to upload. It's going to go through all my images. Well, I don't have an image I want. So I'm going to have to go to Google and type in picture that I'm going to have to look up an image. So let's say I want to find question mark. So I would go to images from question mark. I would see where am I getting a picture from. I can even go to different websites that give you copyright free items, but no matter what, I'm going to take this right now. And if this is the picture I would take, I would save it to my computer and I would make sure I would cite the website to make sure you're properly citing. But that's where the main negative was with this, is you had to put all these in. Okay, but if you want to put a multiple choice in, there's your multiple choice. I highly recommend on Desmos, the only thing you would put onto it are 3 items. So notice I put an image, I put a note, and I would put a multiple choice question. And again, when you put the multiple choice question in, you can even ask your students, which I'll talk about right now. Let me do this one. If I put a multiple choice question in, I put the answers in the order that I want them to be in. But I love this question right here. It asks them to explain their answer. So if they chose A, then you need them to explain, well, why did you choose A? What's the reason for it? So that's what they're going to put right here. So after they chose A, it'll immediately pop up where it'll say, explain your thinking. And again, if I don't want other students to see their response, I just click on that. So again, it's a very nice question to play around with to see, but I love the idea that I asked them to explain their answer. Okay, but that's for multiple choice. Check boxes is the same thing like any other checkbox. There it is. I can put the question in the top, like say, please select the most important issues to you. Of course, my spelling's awful today. I put down money, family, sports, food. If you think all of them are important, you put that down, but you see how many kids would select whatever one. So when they get that question, it'll look like this. And I usually try to throw in like a cartoon off to the side just to make each page a little bit more enjoyable to see. So I take cartoons where I properly cite them again, and I make sure that they're one that I could use them, and I put them into that spot. Okay, but that's it. And I'll talk about my order list, and then I'll talk about a couple other ones as well. Okay, but here's where you get important issues to you. I can also put them in order, where I get the order from the most expensive to least expensive. You get stuff like that. Most expensive in one spot, least expensive from here. And there's so many questions I felt like you can really put into this from right now. So you could put down a Toyota Corolla, a Tesla, which I should know specific style Tesla, but I'm just going to put Tesla, and then I'll put down a Ferrari. Get those types, see where they know, and you get students that would come up with it. For math, they even give other questions with it as well, where you get a graph question, you get a sketch, which I like how you just allow students to sketch an answer. You see them draw it in. So it works really well for if you're doing a math question where you want them to draw it in. And if you have a touchscreen computer or if you have tablets, this works well with it as well. Okay. They even have geometry functions that you can add to it, or you can add different questions from geometry. Let me just delete this component. Okay, but you can see I have different items that I can add for geometry. And again, it's just fun stuff to play with that you have. Okay, for sketching, media just means pictures. You can add tables to it. Okay, and the nice thing is if you have a full screen, we'll talk about that at the end. And so what I would highly recommend for you right now is as you're making this, you just play with it and you see where it goes. But to me, this is where it's a neat questions that you can come up with, what else you can do. And I think it's just an enjoyable process that students really like. All right, so I'm just going to quickly show you right now how to assign an assignment as well, just to make sure you understand that. So as you've already made your assignment, you click on custom again, and you'll see all the assignments that you have. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to assign you right now my presentation. So I'm going to show you how you do it. You click on it, and if you pop up to the top, you're going to see all your active assignments. This is the one actually right here that I've already assigned to the class, and I'll explain how it works here quickly. So over at the right-hand side, you see the green assign button. You're going to have two different things to click on. You can either make it a single session, and then they added a new item here to assign to your classes, which is just absolutely perfect for Google Classroom. Let me click on assign to classes first. So what you have right now is all my classes for this 9 weeks is updated here from Google Classroom. So I can click on it right now and put it into each class. It will also allow me to choose when I manage my classes to post immediately to Google Classroom and not post on studentdesmos.com. I didn't have my students make any accounts on studentdesmos.com. That's what I love about Desmos is that I can simply just attach it to my classroom. So I don't need to make them set up their own separate account. All they have to do is get the link to the assignment or the code to it, and then they'll be set. So if I want to send it to my third period science class, I click on it and say assign. I'm not going to do that right now. I'm just going to show you that is how you're going to do it, though. You go through Google Classroom. The other way to do it is how I did it for this particular class, is I made a single session. So when I put the single session up, what I really like is how they changed is a little bit of security. You can do this for a couple of different activities you want. So you can make the code active for only 2 days or 2 weeks, or even they let you have it for 1 year. So you could set it up and say create invitation code once you have it set up. So right here, I made the assignment for this class 1 year, and they're always going to recommend we don't want you to have it set for 1 year, but I think 2 weeks is usually good enough for most classes, and you'll create invitation code. Now, that is if you did not attach it to your classroom. But what you have with each one is you're going to get it set up where they're going to give you the code. They'll tell you when it's going on, how many students have signed up. And what's nice about it is that, like, if I made it for my period 3 science class, it'll show me how many students did it in my period 3 science class. All right. But you have a couple different items here. You can look at the student link. This is what I usually put into my classroom when they come in. I'll put this up here, tell them to go to this website, and they'll type in this code. They do not need to make anything else. They don't need to make a separate account. They do not need to make any passwords, which makes it great again. They just need to simply click on it, just like PearDeck. So it gives them that activity. Okay, I could share the link with them. I can deactivate the code from here, but that's as well as you have. I just want to show one more thing to have with your dashboard, but here's what you're going to see. Okay, but again, you get these different opportunities to look at a couple items. You can look at, this is what I see from the teacher end, so I can again choose my pacing, I can anonymize, I can pause the lesson if I want to get them to focus on me. So if I have them and I want their eyes on me for a little bit, I need to hit pause so they'll observe me. Summary is really what every student is doing, but then I can also see what do the students see. So if you want to see, like, what does it look like on the student's end, this is what it looks like on the student's end as well. Snapshots allow you to add photos from another device. Okay, I haven't really played with that too much. but really I can take certain students' activities that I see them do and I can share it here. So like I say, if I see work that I really like or work that shows exactly what I want to do, I could take a snapshot of it and show it later. Up in the upper left-hand corner, it says TUSLAW Teacher Presentation. You get this set up here. I am actually, if you want to share your dashboard, so let's say you're co-teaching or you're presenting to, or you're actually being evaluated and you want your principal to be able to see it, or you're co-teaching and you want your co-teacher to be able to see it, I could click on this and share it with my colleague and they will see the dashboard at the same time as I do. So that's a nice feature as well. But then as I clicked on the activity page for you to be able to see, talk about this right now, this goes back to the actual activity itself. So here is my page right now. What I want everybody to see is after this, I can actually archive it, okay, in the end, okay, but I can archive it for later so I can see it another time, but I really like this at the top as well, especially if like you have a sub in for the day or you just want to make your own notes. You click on line of notes. What do I need to do? I can put my code up here. It even takes printouts of each slide for you to see. And I think this is a great feature. It tells you they really were thinking about teachers when they were doing it. So I can actually stand in front of the classroom and know where they are and walk around as well. Okay, and I know everything. I could write down my notes on it and I can know exactly, okay, I got to focus on this part. Students are struggling on slide 4. What do I need to look at for the next time? So again, good ways to improve your teaching skills and also to individualize for each lesson, but to see what is working well and what's not. So let me show you finally what I have given. So let me show you what I get. And this to me is the best part of Desmos, is being able to see the results. Okay, so let me take one of my custom activities. So I'll take my, let's go to my ionic binary compounds from last year, okay, before the insanity hit. And what I'll take is I have a class here. I had 25 students, and I'll click on them. So I'm going to click on View the Dashboard. What I want everybody to see right now is these are all students' names, but I don't have any students named this. Why does it look like this? Well, I clicked on Anonymize. So one, that's nice because of this. I don't show you my students' actual names, but what it did is it took famous mathematicians and it gave each of my students a name. And students love this, for one thing, is that they get their own new name when they're in class and nobody knows who they are. So if I put this up on my projector, you don't know who answered this question wrong or who gave this answer and so on. So this is the screen that I get to see when I'm doing it. Okay, but I anonymize them. So originally, though, I will actually see, if I click off this right now, I would see everyone's real name. But as soon as class starts, let's see, I have all my students in here. I anonymize them and give them a name. What I also love about it is I can click on pacing, and it allows me to choose where do I want my students to go. So if we start a class and say, all right, I want them to go from slide 1 to 4 on their own, but they can't go beyond slide 4 right now. I want them to stop because I need to explain this one to them. So that's what I'll do. So I explain it. I can then change it from now on. So I'll say restrict to those slides. But then as the lesson goes on, I can quickly add it right now, or I can say stop. Okay, like I don't want to do it that way. But I love the pacing guide of it where I could say, okay, we're going to go from slide 1 to 4. You have to stop there. Now, students should be on. I can click add there. So now students can go at their own pace with this type of activity. And then we could see it here. All right, well, let me click on the actual slides. So here are what I got. I put a couple questions on here. This is what I saw. They're correctly naming ionic compounds, and I could see right off the bat who was wrong. And I could look at it later on after class. I can click off the anonymize, and I'll know every student that got it right and wrong, and I'll know basic ideas. Okay, I'll click on another one where they had to type in free response questions. It'll tell me each student's work, so I can go through it. I could even give a grade off of this. I could see, oh, this student got 4 right, this student got 5 right. I can actually look at it once I took away the anonymize, because this will have their name. This is another one for them to look at a table for my textbook, I believe, on this one. And again, it tells me where they were. So questions I can ask. So again, more questions that ask them to answer it in specific ones, how to do it. But as you can see, I added in specific directions into the title of the slide, and then I added a media, and I added the note. And even here, I typed in a link. So I had them go to a video to watch it. So I typed in a link to a YouTube video. They had to watch the YouTube video before they can answer the questions with this. Okay, card sorter. One of my favorite things for card sorter is I could see where they are. So if you can look at it right now, I'll click on this student, and their job was to click on, okay, what are cations, what are anions? They need to realize that metals are cations and non-metals are anions. And so I put certain images on it. It took me a while to make all this. Again, I had to save these images and cite them on my webpage in case somebody asked, and I did it from there. So I could see different results. But what it asked them to do is they clicked and dragged the cations to the cation placeholder, the anions to the anion placeholder. And now I could see where they were right. And I could see all my students that were right and all my students that were wrong. Now here's a drawing problem where I asked them to draw how an ionic bond forms. So if I saw one student that was way off, I could see where were they and what are they thinking. So something I could maybe individualize myself and talk to that student later on. Okay, next question again, another, let me get this. Okay, I'll type in the next one. Another drawing problem, a little bit more in depth, but the kids loved this one in class again. I added a video to help them out, and they are able to answer the question. So I could see, did each student do what I wanted? So what I love about this website, Desmos, and again, what makes it the best is I get individual work. Granted, my computers are touchscreen, so it makes life easier, but they get to show this exact work to me, and I could see right firsthand, are they getting it? So especially if you have touchscreen computers, this is great. Okay, another problem where I had them draw. They had to draw onto the periodic table that I saved on it, where I asked them to circle a metal. Okay, and basically what I gave is specific instructions. Okay, I want to make an ionic compound that had 3 atoms of a metal to 1 atom of a non-metal. So I made a mistake there. So I needed to actually put that down as non-metal. And I told them to make a specific color for each one. So I had specific problems, and that's it. Okay, and again, more drawings, which the students tended to like this one a lot at the beginning. More open response, and then I asked them about their confidence level. I always try to do that, and then I asked them to explain this. So you can see I got some people giving me true responses that I need. Okay, and I'm getting real results. They were very honest with me about it. And I would say, okay, I got to really talk with Maria tomorrow to figure out where she is at the moment. Again, more YouTube videos, more questions, so I could see their actual response if they chose to answer it. I didn't ask them to do that one. And then I finally did which a lot of people like are marble slides, so they could see it here. So that's it. So again, I can actively go through all these and see how were they doing. So what I'll do is I will give you the Desmos link, and I'll let you try over both of them. I'll give you the link to Desmos. I'll give you the link to this slides presentation. Okay, I want you to practice these and hopefully make a couple for them. Hopefully you understood enough that it made sense to how to make both of these, and I hope you enjoyed them. All right, please email me if you have any questions, if you need any help, or even like throw some different ideas to me, let me know. I am going to provide a link with this as well. So there will be a link on this that will ask for your input for my lesson, just to rate me and to rate what do I need to improve. And be honest, and I hope you all have a fantastic summer. Enjoy.